Okay, we're live. This is it. So, hello, welcome, guys. This is Disabled Girls Who Live goes live. Splat out. This is Marcia from South Florida. Today we're talking Corona, disabilities, and more. You know, we're all here. There's about 7 of us. Unfortunately, our boo Chloe couldn't make it, so we're sending internet hugs out to her. But you got us, and you'll be happy. You'll love us. So, moving on to our next. Oh wait, actually no. Since just in case you're not familiar, I'm Marcia again, South Florida again. I am a powerlifting strong woman with an invisible illness. So yes, I might be shredded, and yes, I might be strong, but I am always sick. Keep that in mind. And we'll talk to our founder, Marybeth, next.
Hey everyone. As some of you might know, I live in San Jose, California. I am the founder of Disabled Girls Who Lift. I'm a competitive powerlifter, passionate advocate for adaptive athletes and QT-POC athletes in the United States. I'm also a proud Filipina, disabled woman, queer woman. I'm in the limb difference community, so I am missing a few fingers or a whole hand, but I'm really excited to be bringing these fantastically talented and bright women to the discussion. As the largest minority group in the world, you know, we're 1 in 7 people, and in the United States alone, we're 19% of Americans. So although it's, you know, really difficult to relate to one another because everyone's disability is unique, we bring these types of platforms together representing disabilities of all kinds, personalities of all kinds, and, you know, just awesome women. So to get as many perspectives as possible, we wanted to bring some of our podcast guests back together on one platform, talk about these topics from a firsthand experience. Some of you might recognize their voices. It is the first time we're showing our faces, so let's put a name to that face. So Kym Dekeyrel, she lives in San Jose, California. She's a wife, mother of 2 boys, a massage therapist, and a competitive CrossFit athlete. She was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, a degenerative eye condition in early childhood, and is now totally blind. She is a wheel-wad adaptive athlete and strives to encourage others with vision loss to chase their dreams. Then we got Rose Hughes. Hi, Rose. Rose is a British chick living in Leuven, Belgium. She has a bunch of chronic illnesses, autism, and PTSD. She is super into fitness and even more into food. She uses her online platform to bring smiles to people's faces, all whilst feeding them bite-sized info in the hope to educate. Kresenda Keith. Kresenda is a strongman competitor and currently qualified as the 2nd strongest adaptive woman in the world via Static Monsters. She's finishing her PhD in criminology, law, and society, and lives for data analysis. She enjoys hiking, biking, kayaking, and all strength sports, and also co-instructs women's self-defense with her boyfriend. She's a loud, proud, bisexual Mexican adaptive athlete from California who strives to help others use exercise as part of treatment for chronic illnesses. Then we've got Karleigh Webb. Karleigh is a journalist, contributor with Outsports.com, a staff operator with Trans Lifeline, and an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, centering on workers' rights, trans liberation, and anti-war organizing in New Britain, Connecticut. She's also a runner, cyclist, triathlete, and really would rather be playing softball this spring than be in quarantine. Don't we all? Last but not least, Luisa Brown. Hey, Louisa. Louisa's a professional photographer, PhD student, weightlifter, boxer, mother of twins, and below-the-knee left leg amputee living in Johannesburg, South Africa. Her message is all about living in a world where everyone needs to be perfectly put together, but she wants to bring across a message that we all are missing something in our lives, physically, mentally, or emotionally. We have to adapt and run this race with perseverance. Welcome, ladies. It's so awesome to have you live with Disabled Girls Who Lift.
Good to be here.
Great being here. Holla.
Lovely, lovely. So I guess we could start off talking. I mean, this is Disabled Girls Who Lift, so we are no stranger to adapting. That's our life. We adapt, we thrive, we exist, we keep it moving. But the world is kind of not moving. So how does that work out? Are we adapting more? Are we changing things that we're doing? Are things different? Are things pretty much the same? I mean, I'll start for me, I'm in South Florida. We're sort of shelter in placing in a way. Essential shit is still open. I only leave the house on Fridays. I mean, I'm sending my husband out to do everything. I'm spraying everybody down at the door. It's definitely weird. It's definitely different. So I'm curious to see what everybody has to do to maybe even adapt what they figured out something was working and now it doesn't. What are we supposed to do? Kresenda, where are you at?
So I'm in Northern California, just outside of San Francisco, and just a little too far away from Marybeth. And yeah, it's weird. I've never wanted to leave the house and look at doorknobs so much. Um, Everybody here, I mean, we're going to the mandated mask for the entire state, and or at least for our county. And my boyfriend's door dashing on the side to make some money because he works in a gym and they're closed. And it's very strange to see a lot of people not doing anything and not caring, and then not respecting the fact that he's out there putting his life and my life and everybody in the house
True.
like at risk to deliver somebody's cheeseburger. And it's strange because we can't find anything to do. And I mean, we've taken to coloring and coloring books and all kinds of stuff, just trying to stay busy when you're so used to working out all the time. And we don't have access to barbell or anything. We don't have space for it. So, I mean, just kind of sitting around and getting soft now.
Yeah. Yeah. But as far as daily stuff, daily stuff that you're doing for treatment, or if you need medication or you need to do follow-ups or even just
Um,
grocery shopping.
uh, I got unlucky and had to switch primary care doctors in the middle of COVID. So, I mean, I've never even met my primary care doctor, and
That's weird.
it wasn't, I didn't really televise it, but I had found a lump in my breast a couple weeks ago and had to deal with that while trying to stay away from people and had to go through the mammograms and the ultrasounds. And it's just day to day stuff. You just don't want to do it. And I want to make sure that people understand that that's okay. You can do nothing, and that's okay. There's no set plan of what you need to do. So I'm kind of one of the few that's not working out and not really finding other coping mechanisms that I hadn't expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably, I mean, sure, there's like the level of people that are like, oh, I don't know who I am if I'm not, doing whatever my sport is. But there's also the level of that was the way that you dealt with stuff. You were mad, you were anxious, you were whatever with the sorrows of the world, and you go hit that barbell and you were like, oh, all right, I'm good now. But you can't do that.
Is it hurts, and it hurts a lot more than I think I had expected, and not quite sure what to do with that energy. So it's been a lot of bed rest and a lot of staying off of social media, and coloring and coloring books really has been my outlet.
And
You do what you
what I really love about this community is we're really like reminding each other that it's okay not to be productive. It's okay to, stay in bed and not do anything on a Monday for the first time in your life, or find
Right.
something separate from what you were training so hard to do for competition. And like for me, I started my own garden. I never had a green thumb. Holy shit. And you started your own garden too, right? Finding our own ways to cope, or taking longer walks than we used to. That's
and accepting that like I've got competitions coming up, and accepting that I am not going to be my best, and that's okay. a lot of people have access to a home gym and I don't. And I found some creative ways to do some exercises, but it's, especially when it comes to strongman, it's just not quite the same. So it is what it is, and you gotta just kind of accept it and move on.
And on top of that, if you even wanted to start your own home gym, everything's sold out. You know, there's a high influx of people wanting to start their own home gyms. There's hardly any access. I know some people are trying to make their own out of cement, you know, but how's it working for everyone else? Are you taking this adapting to isolation and immobility or infection susceptibility? Like, are you doing anything different this time?
I'm honestly like discovering that. I said this to my dad yesterday. I think I should have recorded the noises from my local gym, including like the grunts and just like the general noises you get in a small chain of gyms. Because I'm training at mine and like thoroughly enjoying it because I live on my own and it's quite nice. But that's the thing that's lacking, is it's not a gym because it doesn't sound like one, and I'm not bumping into everyone and I'm not waiting for the bench to be free. But in some ways it's been quite nice because I'm like not having to like really overthink it. And I don't have that like pre-gym anxiety that I always have to deal with. Like, I think everyone has it, like the 20 minutes of, do I go? I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like people today. That's all gone because it's just me and my house rabbit.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't have to deal with that part. Kym, what about you? You still look like you have some sort of a home gym situation. Oh wait, hold on, you're muted. Oh, she's good now. Start over, Kym.
I actually feel like, well, I know I have more pre-gym anxiety now that I'm working out at home, which you would think that I would be more comfortable in my own home than at the gym, but I am definitely not. It's gotten a lot better as, you know, I've just had to get used to it, but I am so used to and so grateful for always having other people's eyes on me at the gym. My coaches, my friends, my husband, you know, I get turned around at the gym and boom, somebody is there to turn me back around, face me in the right direction, bring me my things. And now I wake up super early a lot of times and go out into my garage, and I get so turned around in my own dang garage that it takes more time to work out, and I'm nervous. And, you know, I've had to really take the time to stop and say to myself, like, don't get frustrated. If you only do this much, then you only do this much. And I do feel lucky that I do have a home gym, right? So many people do not, but it has been very hard. And I have joked with, you know, one of the coaches saying, you know, if I just had your voice recorded, it'd be no different for me, like, because I can't see anybody at the gym anyway. Right. But for me, you know, having people is so important. People's touch, people's energy. And I've also, and I never get really down or depressed. And during this time, I've had to really go through, you know, taking care of my emotions, in that just not having that. I'm not a visual person. So now all these Zoom meetings, all these Skype calls, I feel still so disconnected because I don't see what everybody else is seeing. And not having that energy of actual human is hard for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could definitely get that. So it's like a different level of discomfort. You know, for us, we're thinking we're uncomfortable because it's like, oh, what am I gonna wear? Or somebody gonna judge me if I take my shirt off? Or, oh, am I gonna have to deal with a gym bro? But I mean, you're like the opposite, where you're like, okay, my coach isn't gonna be there to make sure I don't hit my head on a barbell.
Yes. Yeah.
That's like interesting perspective, actually. Like I and I'm glad you said it, because it's not crossed my mind, and it's like the polar opposite of my situation.
Yeah, and I feel just because of the past month being kind of locked away from everybody, even just in day-to-day things, I'm finding myself more disoriented even in my own home. And I think it's just, the breaking of my routine, all this change of, the ones of us that have kids, that they're around, you're trying to figure out school for them. So
Right.
for me, that change of total routine, it makes me end up walking into walls. It's just bizarre.
And from what we know, you've got a 12-year-old son who helps you a lot too, right? Who sits in front of you, actually captures video for you.
I know, he's so good. I'm so lucky. I have him and my 8-year-old. They are great. But we talk about all these rumors going around that the new normal is going to be Zoom and internet. And I'm like panicking, thinking, oh no, please no. Because as wonderful as technology is and how far it's come for accessibility for visually impaired people, there's still a long way to go. I mean, even my struggles yesterday with setting all this up, there's still a lot lacking for doing things independently. And I am lucky to have 12-year-olds and 8-year-olds, but sometimes they want to do their own thing and not,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing our best, right?
Yeah. What else can we do? How about you, Louisa? What are things like in South Africa, or how are you adapting? Are you doing whatever you need to do, or are you just stuck? How's it moving? Wait, hold on.
1 second. Go ahead.
You got me?
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have my own gym at home. I've actually just set up my photo studio, where I just get all the weights and the bars and things in there. And so I started working out, but like Kym said, the people, the communication, the interaction, even though you might think that, that weird dude might be looking at you, you sort of kind of miss that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the kind of thing that motivates you, to show the guys that you can do what they can do. The solitude was okay, like for a couple of days. I enjoyed my own company, because I would go in there, I would blast the music, and I would lift. I have this big mirror there as well, and I would lift, but then eventually there's something missing. And it just shows you how we've become dependent on other people, on company, on having people around you. And like Kym also said, you miss the voices, you miss the grunts, especially. You miss just that sound, just the ambience that is there, just the feel, I guess, the smell as well. Interacting with different ages. I'm fortunate because I'm in South Africa. There's different race types in my gym. So there's a lot of Black people. We have colors, we have female, we have male, we have old, we have young. And so the interaction is quite interesting every day. We had our daily routine where we would, who you're going to greet. And, you follow up on your discussions, and you follow up on how's their family and how that's doing. So the solitude side of it, the isolation side of it, is a little bit sad for me. But I mean, I'm not letting that get in the way of still wanting to stay fit, still pushing for goals that I have set for myself. And I'm just thankful that I can gym at home. As far as sanitizing and trying to clean everything, keeping everything clean, keeping everything just sanitized, we're doing good. The family's doing good. I've got twins, like you've introduced myself. I have teenage twins who keep themselves very busy. They are athletes as well, 16-year-olds, gymnasts. So you can imagine the adrenaline and the testosterone happening in this house. So yeah, but we keep active. We try and release the frustrations and the stress, not on one another, but the irons work. We'll go outside and we'll play with the dogs. We love dogs, we love animals. And, you know, at the end of the day, just come together as a family and then just sort of watch TV, enjoy a movie, you know, just interact and just try and make the best of it. I know it's not going to last forever. That's one thing that we're certain of, but we just try and stick together as a family and just watch out and see what's happening out there in the world. As sad as it is, we are really fortunate that we are the ones who are outside of the hospital and we are still healthy and we are still fit, and we can do as much as we can. I've packed cupboards, I've unpacked drawers, I've re-racked and restacked, you know, just to keep busy. Things that we've postponed over the years, and there was always excuses that we can't do this and we can't do that. And so, you know, the cleaning side doesn't stop. But we just try. Yeah, yes, cleaning out, it's unbelievable the hoarding that's been happening.
So how long has the shelter in place been, you know, active in South Africa? How your kids have been out of school for a while now? It's been 4 weeks here in the Bay Area. Yeah,
just about a month now. Fortunately, we have online training. So what the school does, we have like a D6 communicator. And what the school does is teachers will just upload all their lessons and assignments that they need to do. And then, so they set time aside during the day so they can go through that, you know, still keeping busy and still trying to educate themselves and do what they have to, and then submit that at the end of the day. So it's not that bad, but I do think they miss their friends. And they do miss school life, but we have to work with what we have.
Yeah, of course. So one thing someone asked us, because you all know this is a Q&A live, so we're going to get lots of questions from the audience and some of our followers, but some people are having trouble with food and medicine rationing. You know, some of us have chronic illnesses. Some of us can't afford to overstock on toilet paper, canned foods, other things that you've seen gone missing, flour. Does anyone have any tips for managing grocery store anxiety? If it's different in your location, please let us know.
Going really early in the morning. Like, I've been making the stupid mistake of thinking people won't go. And here in Belgium, I've got some pretty strict measures in place, but you can still go to the grocery store, like, you know, every day. And I had been going like around middle of the day, you know, when you have enough energy, which is like middle of the day. And the queues were just crazy long, and I would arrive, and it's quite far as well. So I'd be like throwing a bit of a tantrum because I'd be like, I've just walked all the way here. Yeah. But there was just so many people, and even though they are keeping respective distance, and there is like hand sanitizer everywhere, and they're like cleaning your trolley for you, or your cart, sorry. It's just the amount of people and knowing that they're physically going to be in the store, and like, I just don't trust anyone. And also the waiting outside, like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I'm not about standing up for that long in a situation like that. So I end up just like turning and doing a 180 and kind of going, fine, I'll go for a walk and come back. Yeah. But I definitely think going early, or like nowhere near before closing, because it seems everybody goes at that time.
Or it's all
definitely
out.
Early.
So they've minimized your capacity, that's for sure. But I know some of our stores they're offering like a 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. like senior hour, you know, where people over 60 can come and shop in peace. Have you seen some of that happening in your area?
Doing that where I live. They are doing that where I live. There's a lot of stores that are doing that. The interesting thing is when they're doing it. That time is usually from like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. at a number of places. So when the stores are pretty much open, when the stores are opening up, that first 2 hours, you have to be over 60 to get in, then everybody else. And like a lot of queuing up, a lot of it. Strange enough, the longest queues I've seen have been at Starbucks. I mean, you have cars lining up 3 blocks down the way because you know you just gotta have that Starbucks fix in the morning. Not me necessarily, but a lot of people. It's just been a matter. I mean, grocery stores have drastically changed. There's everything is a one-way aisle in one way or another to try and limit the traffic flow, keep the social distancing as they call it, which is I'm still trying to wrap my head around why exactly that term. But yeah, it's been here where I live in Connecticut, it's been, I'll put it this way. Any talk of trying to quote unquote reopen the country by May 1st is something straight out of cloud cuckoo land. And that is what you're seeing, at least where I'm living in the Northeast, where we have not even reached the apogee of this first outbreak yet. I mean, for example, in Connecticut, the cases have been increasing by an average of 180 to 200% a week. And the death toll has unfortunately averaged increases of roughly 160 to 170% a week. I say any hopes of opening the country up at the 1st of May is serious fantasy land.
Yeah, it's not gonna go that well. We're also in that same boat where they're not letting more than a certain amount of people in the stores, so then you have to wait outside the store, and then you could go in, and like you said, it's the one ways and the whatnots. And to answer the question about how to handle the anxiety, I mean, luckily for me, I'm just making somebody else do it.
Yeah.
That's my answer. That's my answer. And if you don't have a partner or a brother or whatever, then this is where you try and find, cash in on those internet Instagram friends and find out who's by you and see if you could get someone to give you a helping hand. Because I do know people that have done that as well. They live on their own. They're not in the same state as their family, but they put a little story up on Instagram. Hey, can somebody get me some vegetables? And somebody did. So
Yeah.
you can't be afraid to ask for the help when you need it. And this is definitely the kind of time where we have to put that.
And people want to help.
Yeah.
And nobody's super busy. So people do want to help, and they're grateful to help. And if you even casually ask, it seems like people are just willing and wanting, or I haven't been in a store since this whole thing started, which is weird, but yeah, I've been very lucky.
Yeah, in general, like on a personal level, I hate grocery store shopping. So I stick to delivery. That's my bread and butter, but delivery's packed right now. So, somebody actually has to leave the house and shop. But in general, I skip it. It's too much work. It's hot outside. I gotta go from my car. I gotta go inside. By the time I remember everything, it's like 3 hours. I'm tired as hell. That means when I get home, I'm not doing anything. There's no more spoons left. So I just, never mind. I don't grocery shop. But now
No, I do want to send a shout out to a group I work with, Connecticut Mutual Aid. My background behind me, I've been working with a number of mutual aid cadres in our state, and now those cadres are being coordinated. We're working together, we're communicating together, and things are starting to get done for a lot of people statewide. And I want to throw them a quick shout out because, I mean, we up here, one thing we've learned is we have to depend on neighbor to neighbor, because the state can't do everything, and the current regime in Washington is looking to do nothing. So it's going to be, if it's to be, it's going to be up to all of us helping our neighbors out. And for me, I found by helping out, that's helped deal with the depression. That's helped deal with the frustration. That's helped deal with the anxiety. Because at the moment, as a sign in one of our local parks where I like to go run, it says social distancing is important. Hashtag, it's not about you. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. By keeping the focus on other people, by keeping the focus on helping others, it also helps us. It can help us get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's so important bringing up community because with, businesses closing down, it's been over a month. A lot of small businesses can't stay afloat now or when we come back from this. So one, you can't really, you're filing for unemployment, but you've got to wait a number of weeks to get approved. If you want to get, funding for WIC or CalFresh here in California, the application process is getting longer because everyone's applying. So what I've seen a lot more are food drives here in my area and everywhere else, where if kids can't get meals because they've stopped school, or parents can't get meals because they are not working, like, come and pick up your meals 2-3 times a week, because there's no funding right now. And it's really tough, but it is amazing seeing these relief funds sprout from nowhere, and it exists. If you need that, please let us know. Let's see.
Yeah, and in terms of community and that sort of thing, do you guys know of a lot of local things that are happening? Are you guys doing anything? Or are you guys getting help from anyone? Or, your personal friends or family doing things? So we know about Connecticut. Connecticut's coming through. What about these other areas?
I have to say, like, I can be quite a negative Nancy about Belgium. But like, so I think we're going into our 7th week since the lockdown started. And there have been like multiple situations where either like my family or my friends or someone has said like that they don't have access to something that's really like difficult is whether or not you go to the doctor with like a regular issue now, like not corona related, but put yourself at the risk. So they do have a lot. Like, I don't know everything because I don't necessarily check Flemish or French news that religiously. But for example, like when this all kicked off, I did put on my Instagram story and my Facebook that I like social media that that my parents were self-isolating and that neither of them had gone to like a store or like really left the house in like 6 weeks, especially because my mom is so vulnerable. My mom's also chronically ill. And instantly the amount of people that like popped up on my phone, it was quite emotional because I was like, I had no faith that anyone would want to like go to this village in the middle of nowhere, but loads of people popped up. And then eventually a friend dropped off a load of groceries to my parents, and I was like, you have no idea how much that means to me, because like you're doing such a solid for a situation where like I felt so helpless because I can't help and they can't do it. It's like, what can you do? But there are loads of really cool like initiatives and stuff flying around Belgium that are just kind of like adorable. I was going around on like one of my runs and I kept seeing teddy bears in people's windows. And I was like, okay, it's cute, but like, why is everyone doing this and why didn't I know? And then everybody, like, I've never had this many DMs in my Instagram, like that. And everyone was like, yeah, it's this thing called the bear hunt. And I'm like, I know what a bear hunt is. But they're doing it so that like every day you take your kids out for exercise and they have to like walk around, not touch anything, but just be like, oh, look, a bear, and count how many bears they can find. I think that's really cute because they go home and they tell their friends over like whatever the equivalent of MSN is that they have now. They go home and they say, I saw 9 bears today, and the other person's like, I saw 11. So it's just really like these little things are really cute, and they help distract you because I think there's just so much negativity being fed that this stuff really brightens my day. Like the smallest thing that probably would not have made me smile in the past, but like
that you wouldn't have even noticed before.
Exactly. Like totally.
I've heard too that is really nice that people, when they're going on their walks, they're writing messages on the sidewalk chalk. So then positive messages, uplifting messages, so that people can write and respond and write something else. And I've heard that going on. That's really nice. Cute. It's good for kids.
Yeah, kids need a lot of, I mean, this is the time where they're used to doing A, B, and C, and everything's kind of all over the place. So they can get pretty unsettled. I don't have any kids, but I do work with kids. And you could just, I'm going to where I work and not all the kids are there. Only the kids whose parents have to work. and they're like, oh, I miss so and so, where is he? Oh, I miss so and so, where's everybody? Why are you
Yeah.
doing that so much? You know, they're just like, what is going on? You know, and when you're not when you're busy being depressed yourself, or trying to deal with how the fuck are my parents gonna get groceries yourself, and all these things that we're all dealing with, I can only imagine it could be so confusing for the little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with all these holidays coming through, you know, I was just telling my partner, this country, this world is lucky that it's not happening during Thanksgiving and Christmas time, because
Oh, jeez.
everyone would just blow their minds. But how, you know, I'm seeing kids handle celebrating their birthdays. They're doing drive-bys of their friends, you know, with signs and balloons driving through their block, or, you know, just really amazing things in the community, and a reason to get out of the house but not really physically interact has been really nice.
Yeah, it gives you the sense of community without spreading any contagion.
Which is number one.
Which is number one. But as far as community goes, though, I will say that the negative thing about community that I've seen, from the fitness world mostly, or maybe like anyone that's sort of wellnessy, is that there's so many like really, really annoying fat jokes. Like, I'm sorry, if the worst thing that you could think of coming out of a worldwide pandemic is that you put on some weight, just don't say
Yeah.
anything at all. Just, I don't understand it. It
I,
absolutely
I
blows my mind.
I think it's because people are so used to their routines and so used to, whether it is going to the gym every day or going and doing whatever. I think just the change in our routine, whether or not the scale is even moving, we're just so uncomfortable with ourselves. We're so uncomfortable with the change in our surroundings, which makes us feel like we're lazy or blah. And yes, I do think people shouldn't put it up on necessarily social media, but that is kind of also a sign to maybe reach out to that person and ask how they're doing, because it might not actually have anything to do with their weight. It might just be more that they're feeling really shitty. And, you know, I think, you know, we're so used to having our community to pump us up, make us feel great. And we just don't have that, especially in CrossFit. I mean, isn't that what it's all about? Is the CrossFit people, we drink the Kool-Aid, we're in this weird cult. But those are our people that we're with every day. And so, yeah, we do feel, or a lot of people feel out of shape and things like that. So I do think it's more about an insecurity than an actual scale.
I can see what you mean in terms of how society views, you know, disabled is bad. In terms of how transphobes view things, trans, that's weird, that's bad. You know, in terms of bodies, like fat is bad. All right, I feel bad. All right, make fun of fat people. Like, it's just like like down the line. Like, I could see what you mean. Like, you know, there are people that say racist things, and you might tell them like, yo, that was kind of off what you said, and they think about it and they're like, oh, all right, fine. And you know, there are people that say fat phobic things, and you're like, yo, you gotta chill, and you tell them about it, and they're like, oh, I didn't really think that. That's not what I meant. So
well, I was just thinking more about people feeling about themselves, not about other people. The one that makes me crazy, though, yeah, when they say, make sure you put on your jeans once a week to make sure they still fit. Those are the ones that I'm like, excuse me? You know, no. Throw your jeans away.
Yeah. I could not agree more.
Is that how people live in? Is that how we're living? It's bad enough that people are shaming Lizzo right now again.
Oh, we're back to that again. I missed that.
Over that thing Diddy was trying to put together to raise money for coronavirus, and basically said, no, we don't want Lizzo there because Lizzo's too much of a loose cannon. No, because Lizzo probably would steal your show.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh no, they've been on her. No, see, that's what I've been doing a lot during this crisis. I've been doing a lot of working out, listening to her music. It has pushed me through a lot of morning runs, let me tell you. But no, there seems to be in many ways, and I find myself falling into that trap of I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing anything when the fact is I have 3 jobs. The fact is I have 3 jobs, and I'm grateful that I'm still working through this thing. A lot of people aren't, but even so, you get that feeling like you're not doing enough. And there are times I have to back myself off and say, you know what, today you're going to sit with your roommates and you're going to binge watch Batwoman. That's what you're going to do. You're not going to think about anything. Hey, you've done work, you're doing work, you're helping out, just go. And I think in a sense, that's one thing about this time, is that hopefully a lot of people are saying they are taking that step back. And I hope so. I hope that, because I mean, for the most part, no matter where you're at in this earth, everybody, it seems like more and more people on that hustle.
Yeah.
On that hustle, even more so now, especially when you got people knowing the risk, but they're getting out there and they're driving that Uber, they're driving that Lyft, they're doing whatever they can to just scratch it out. And no, I need to speak on this real quick. A lot of people are hyped up about their $1,200, but when I look at what, say, Canada's doing, what I look at what a lot of Western Europe is doing, what I look at what a lot of other countries are doing to take care of people and to give people a safety net during this crisis, I'm like, really? You can keep your Trump chump change to yourself. When you really look at people, I mean, people need help right now. A lot of people need help right now. And I'm sorry, once again, and I hope 2 things I hope that come from this. Number one, people realize that when you hear people say we don't have money for needed services, don't buy it, because they found $2 trillion underneath the couch for Wall Street, and they burnt through it in 30 minutes. And secondly, I think it's cool that people are going out and they're applauding, like the first responders, and you're applauding your health service people, and you're all of a sudden saying that person working the cashier at the local quickie mart is your hero. All well and good, but let's say when we come to the end of this, and for example, here in Connecticut, the nurses union here, their collective bargaining agreement ends in the fall. They got to renegotiate. Now, if they walk out, I wonder how many people all of a sudden go and turn the other way and say, you ain't heroes no more, y'all greedy. Or when those people at the grocery store have to fight over their collective bargaining agreement, fight for their benefits, and go on strike like one of the major chains did here last year. Yeah. I hope that people don't forget who they were applauding. And yeah, I'm also gonna mention real quick, Rose's home country. All you people that are applauding the NHS, when that Tory government starts cutting the NHS, I expect you to get in the faces of some MPs.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there's people that have too much time, and instead of dealing with their feelings of insecurity or whatever, they go and make fun of the others, the us's. So I do want to circle back on that for a second, because I know Kresenda has her fair share of trolls. So if all these trolls are home, I'm wondering if it's gotten worse.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to kind of circle back. I feel like we really got off topic there. And this is a topic that's really important, because saying that there's not an excuse for it. Saying, oh, it's an internal thing. Oh, I'm feeling lazy. That's not a good excuse. That's dumb. Would you say that if you were like, oh, I felt lazy today, I was feeling like a Mexican? I mean,
yeah, these are like at the core, these are offensive ideas, and people are saying things in jest without realizing that what you're saying is actually really fucked up.
And explaining it away, and immediately immediately going towards Lizzo and being like, oh, well, I talk about her music all the time, and equating that only with fat phobia is so reductive, and it's been happening a lot. You can't differentiate one from the other, and that's not how it's supposed to be. I'm not going to try and talk about each person in here and say, oh, well, this person is a limb, has a limb issue, or.
So wait, I'm sorry. So you're saying you've heard people kind of using like, I listen to Lizzo, like that's their token fat friend, basically?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's become a token, and you can't seem to pull her music or herself away from the fat phobia. And she's more than her body. And I feel like that's happening more and more often, is we're immediately going towards talking about one specific body as opposed to a body of work. And it's becoming frustrating because, I mean, just look at us here. We all kind of went out of our way to look a little nicer, to be on camera. And so as females in the strength community, not only are we expected to look decent, we're expected to be a certain way. And we do that to ourselves, but also allowing the community to just explain it away of, oh, well, I feel fat today. Oh, that's just an internal thing. It's frustrating because it happens more than not, especially in my division. You end up with people saying, well, of course she can lift that much. I mean, she's 2 times heavier than I am. So of course she can lift 2 times as much as me. Or I need my own section for us little small people because it's just not fair. And it's just, everything has to be reduced and explained away by weight. And it's becoming a little repetitive.
Yeah, it's an old conversation.
Yeah, and in this time of discomfort, like, you should know how to change your language and mindset around it. Like, why do you need to poke fun at, even if you're just poking fun at yourself? Like, you aren't fat. Honestly, you aren't fat. You probably gained
and if you
a
are,
pound or two, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And Karleigh, I'm wondering, so Kresenda gets a lot of trolls on her stuff. I'm wondering if you experience that, as a trans woman, people always in your business, in your, I don't know, whatever social media you're on, if that's gotten worse, better, or the same, or if you feel any transphobia in general, now that people have a lot of time on their hands, is worse, better, or the same. Unmute her.
It's interesting you say that, because it's funny, we're in the middle of this crisis right now. And this crisis has people I care about in quarantine at the moment. And it's funny, you had something like 9 states in this union at the start of this crisis who, in the middle of having something that they need to be working on, which is dealing with COVID-19, but instead they were taking time out of all the important things that need to be done to try and pass bills that basically make discrimination legal. And one state did it. Idaho passed 2 bills at the last day of their session. One that essentially says if you're trans in Idaho, you cannot get your gender markers changed. And the other one is, if you're a high school kid who wants to play sports and you're trans, we have the right to check your pants. That HB 500 and HB 509 both got passed, and the governor went ahead and signed both. So Governor Brad, shame on you. That I've seen a lot of that, and of course it's been ongoing. It's been about the same, but during this time, I'm surprised that it hasn't stopped. It hasn't dialed back a little bit, because we got a bigger conversation to talk about right now, which is kind of like keeping a lot of people alive as much as we can. But the transphobia is there. It's still out there. And once again, you're hearing the same old tired stuff about don't let those trans kids play sports. Don't let them play sports. And it's like I said on the on the podcast 2 or 3 weeks ago. The one thing that people have to realize is that whole issue is not about sports. That real issue is about erasure. And that's another thing during this crisis. So many things are going through our body politic right now that are targeting all sorts of all communities in many ways. And people aren't paying attention because right now the focus is on COVID, but instead of fighting COVID to the fullest letter, to the red line, they're doing things such as they're doing things, for example, there's a bill going through Congress right now to water down ADA some more. Now, what kind of ignorance is that? A bill that has worked in this country, not perfect, but has worked in this country for 30 years and has given a lot of people opportunity, and now you want to water it down and you want to water it down and debase its function some more. It's pathetic.
And the sad part is they're doing it while they think nobody would notice, because we're all so caught up on trying to survive, trying to feed our families. They're still passing these bills on discrimination. They don't think we'd notice. And it's
exactly
our jobs to keep that voice loud, keep it going.
And another point is, for everyone, this is an example of, if nothing else, this whole crisis is an example of why you need universal health care. This right here is why you need it. And this is why people need to be, after it's over and we can't go back out in the streets, we need to be marching in the streets, wearing out shoe leather and getting in a lot of people's faces, because this is showing what happens, not just for a lot of people talk about marginalized communities. Well, right. Guess what? You're all damn marginalized now. All of you. If you didn't think you were marginalized, there's a very good article in The Root a couple weeks ago where people are where a greater majority of the society are realizing the way that marginalized communities have always had to navigate in society. And if you get a chance, I'm going to find it and I'm going to put that link in there, and I want people to read it, because that's why you're seeing people acting a fool with guns in Michigan right now, because they're finally getting a taste of what Black folks have had to go through, what brown folks had to go through. They're getting a taste of what trans people have to go through. They're getting a taste of what disabled people go through, especially in the healthcare system. So what a lot of people, I saw one fool carrying a sign saying, "My body, my choice, open up the country." How ironic is that? Huh? How ignorant. There's a whole move over, baby, whole lot of ignorance going on in this country right now.
So, this is a question for everyone then. How do we get everyone together on the same page, understanding how people with disabilities, chronic illnesses, the elder are literally have to stay quarantined at home, bringing those conversations together with small businesses who's falling apart and relying on this economy to stay open, people who want this to open back up, but aren't understanding the consequences of bringing these viruses back into the public so soon, without a cure. How do we get these conversations together? I'm seeing it become a red versus blue state again. Everyone's dealing with this in the world, but
I don't know. I feel like we have to figure out what's in the Kool-Aid of some of these top people and start making our own, because there are people out there that are just spewing absolute nonsense, and people are in the thousands and the droves oh, well, so-and-so said, there was a preacher or whatever that got arrested in Florida, not exactly near me, but a big town, because he was refusing to stop doing church, and he's going on it's a war on Christianity, and there are people that are right behind him. Whatever he says, they're supporting it.
Well, sir, let me show you how to use a camera.
Do
what we're doing.
I don't know what these kind of people are serving in their Kool-Aid, but clearly we have been missing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, there is some research coming out right now showing when states can actually open up, but it's a matter of how they open up. I think a lot of people are confusing laxing the social distancing and laxing the shutdown to just all of a sudden willy-nilly everything's opened up. Right now, the study, the projection is showing that California is doing so well as long as we continue testing and continue using masks and social distancing, we could actually probably open some parts of the state up as soon as the middle of May and be safe with it, provided you open the right things and people still continue to work from home and continue to keep their distance. So I think a lot of people are confusing the idea of opening the country back up slowly with simple things like opening up some of these small businesses to just gyms being open again. That's not going to happen for a long time. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that there will be a lull coming up in summer. That's just like any flu season, like any infectious season. There is going to be a lull. Eventually, you regress to the mean and go back to normal. And that's what worries me more than anything. The slowly opening the country back up and opening small businesses and starting to have a little bit of normalcy doesn't worry me as much as people hitting that lull and thinking everything's okay and completely lapsing and putting down their guard and us hitting that peak that's going to happen again. It's just like flu season. And I think that distinction really needs to be spoken about as opposed to just having it black or white. We need to talk about that gray area, and we need to talk about what the individual communities are going to be doing within that gray area, how we're going to allow the vulnerable to still stay at home and still continue to keep that distance, but still have some assimilation of normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind
And
of
I
hard.
think having that conversation of all or nothing is not going to do us any favors. We need to start having the conversation of, well, where can we find ways to make things work? And how can we adapt? And I think if anybody's used to having that conversation, it's us.
True.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like in South Africa, Louisa? Do they have like a plan for you guys? Or is everyone talking about getting back, or what's the messaging that's out there?
Well, our president put the country under lockdown for 21 days initially. You know, he was quick to do that. I don't think that they really had a plan, a solid plan. You know, a lot of businesses were closed down. Small businesses were affected. I am one. I am affected by this in the sense that, as you know, I'm a professional photographer. So my income mainly comes from, I do wedding photography. I do events photography. I have a studio at home. So I do portfolios and portraits and all that. All that has stopped completely. Weddings were canceled because of social distancing, groupings and all that, you know, gatherings couldn't take place. And because of that, most of my events and gigs were all either postponed or just canceled. I'm in a position where I have to pay back clients who has paid already. I have to refund, which at the moment, I don't have a cent coming in. And so government has released or you know, there is a procedure that we can follow to apply for government funding. But I tell you that procedure is it's just very, very, it's cumbersome. You know, the documents you have to submit, everything you have to do. By the time you're done with that, you know, you feel like you're on trial or something. Most of the documents I don't have because I'm a sole proprietor. And I'm not speaking just about myself. I know there's a lot of small businesses out there, informal businesses, people who have been losing out on work and on money. You know, it's just difficult. So I think to lift the lockdown, you know, we shouldn't be in a hurry to do that. You know, there's a lot of people living in poverty, unfortunately, that, you know, when we watch the news and, you know, there are little MPOs trying to feed people there are NPOs going into little infrastructures where they try and feed people, try and, assist. Even government is trying, but they cannot cover all the areas and all the little suburbs or all the local locations that there are. So there's a lot of people that I know who goes to bed hungry, and it's very sad to see this, especially when it's been broadcasted on the news, and you in your house, you yourself don't have any finances, and it's just said that you cannot do anything about this. So there were a helpline on one of the news channels where they've asked people to donate money, and I think on last night, the tally was on about 4 million rand, South African rand. So, that they're hoping to start feeding, starting with feeding schemes and all that. But I don't think we have the capacity to deal with the amount of infection people, personally. If they did, we would have seen numbers dropping, obviously. Although the lockdown has slowed down the infections, there are still people getting infected on a daily basis, and as far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't be in a hurry to lift that lockdown without having a proper plan in place. Even though we are losing out financially, I would like to see this thing being cleared up, either have a vaccine, either have a proper way of controlling the infections, before lifting the lockdown.
And is testing readily available right now in your state? Like, do you have to, be under certain categories to get it, certain, side effects or?
Yeah, the vulnerable people they are getting tested. They're going into communities where they test these people. But it's not really readily available, I should say, in the sense that, we have to pay for it. It's a whole procedure. When we watched the news the other night, it was a documentary on this lady trying to get into one of these locations where they do the testing, where she had to go in, sign up. There were paperwork that she needed to complete. The screening process, it's just tedious, and you need to pay before you. And I mean, not all of us have that money to pay to get tested. So we just, we just try and stay clean and not get infected.
That is nuts to think that it has to come down to whether or not you could pay out of your pocket for it. Is it a similar thing in Belgium, or is it free?
Well, okay, so the healthcare system here, I find this. Do you know what? This is actually one of those questions I find the hardest to explain to someone who doesn't live here, because it's not the same as the US, and it's not the same as the UK, and so the best way I describe it is, you have to have healthcare here. Like, you don't have the option of not having it, but it isn't like cheap. It's not like a cheap thing that people have. It's just something that's very much prioritized. The main reason why my family even moved to Belgium is because it was a better healthcare choice, and the situation that we were in was that we all needed better healthcare. And yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the English healthcare, but yeah. So that was kind of the situation we're in. At the moment, I have friends in every different pot, in the sense that this is going to sound terrible, but I was in a privileged, let's say, position going into lockdown because I was already on health benefits. I was already on job seekers allowance. That's what it's called in England, but here it's called something else. So I was already receiving like a very small amount of money per month that covers my rent, and then there's like a little bit extra for like food and shit. And so going into this, I was already like, I kind of, this is gonna sound weird, but I saw it as a bit of a blessing that I hadn't obtained a job over Christmas, because if I had, the system would have kind of fucked me over, for lack of a better term, because here you have to have worked for a year to be entitled to holiday or sick leave pay. So if I had gotten a job and had it for 2 minutes, basically gone into lockdown, I'd have absolutely no income. I'd have nothing. I have friends that have lost the ability to pay their mortgage. They've lost the ability to pay for their employees. I've had a lot of friends who have been made redundant, and what they don't have is this furlough system. I don't really understand how it works here, because obviously I'm not in the employment system at the moment. But what I do know from the people around me is that it's literally like a lottery about who is finding resources to aid them through this. I don't think it's the fairest system. It does stem from the other issues this country has with kind of the rich and the poor, for lack of better terminology. But like I just said, it's like a situation where it just is so person to person dependent. But the fortunate side, I guess, is that pretty much everyone had healthcare going into this, or health insurance, let's say.
So if you
yeah.
need to get tested, you could just go straight and get it, or do you have to meet certain criteria?
No.
Do you have to pay for it?
So where it stands, it seems like a lot of celebrities are finding access here to getting tested. I don't quite understand that, because the mentality at the moment has been like, I've had friends who have had it, but they've not been tested. And the only reason they're saying they have it is because pretty much you could say they've had it, like the symptoms they had. So you don't, I think you only get tested when you're hospitalized, as far as I know.
That sounds like
I know they have a big problem with like the homeless and stuff, because Belgium does have a lot of impoverished places. Brussels is extremely impoverished in like a lot of places, and obviously that's not the Flemish. I'm in the Flemish region, so it's different. Belgium is not the same in all its places. But what I do know of Brussels and their situation is that the homeless people were being housed, which is really, really nice, but they could have done that a long time ago. And in those cases, I think they have been, apparently, they've been testing all of the homeless people as they were housed. And I think that was in order to not have like a mass amount of homeless people come together in one small space and then just like spread the virus, not knowing that they have it. So I think in certain situations they are forcing testing, and in other situations it's literally only when you're hospitalized.
Wow. So, I mean, what I hear from, actual medical professional and infectious diseases is that should be the focus of not, oh, when can we just open everything and go back to normal, and, not, oh, let's open the schools tomorrow. It should be that if we have the testing we need, it's there, and let's make sure that our hospitals aren't filled. And it doesn't seem like anybody is on top of those things.
Well, still, the idea of opening parts at little bits at a time like makes the absolute most sense for our states, especially places like New York, California, Washington, where we have just a high number of positive cases. And I'm experiencing it in that I run performing arts venues. I like rely on very, very large crowds in order to sustain my work. But thankfully connected to the university, whatever they do, we do. And whenever they're, in debt, we just we follow suit. Right now, we're very thankful that there is a hiring freeze. A layoff and furlough freeze on top of a hiring freeze. So my job is still secure, except lots of people who still rely on being on the field can't find remote projects. Like, I'm trying to find remote projects for my staff in order to give them, a small amount of hours. They're still filing for unemployment. They're still looking for CalFresh, and we're looking to support people based on the circumstances. But it's so tough with very little testing, without a cure. Like, we just have to be okay with the possibility of not opening up until next year. And
I think it's really triggering as well, isn't it? Because like I've been saying this constantly, obviously I want this whole thing to be over, and I want, all the really horrible things that are happening to end. But it's really anxiety triggering to like think about, because if they don't have a really good handle on how they, no matter what country, it's all the same. They don't have a really good handle on how they end this process and how they start introducing, like, you know, restaurants being open or gyms being open or events happening. I mean, Belgium just announced that they've cancelled everything until, like, any mass festival or party, whatever, until like the end of August. And obviously, like, Belgians kind of rely on their summer. So there's been a lot of hate thrown around, but I think it makes a lot of sense, because just because they're going to start opening restaurants again and, like, you know, gyms and coffee shops and stuff, that's a very different thing to Tomorrowland, which is the biggest festival in the whole world. Which would just be, and people from all over the world come together in one space. So I think that makes logical sense. It is really triggering though. Like, I'm actually more, it's becoming more and more of a presence in my mind. I'm like, when this is all over, people are going to start messaging saying, oh my God, we can see each other. And the, like, really at risk person and the chronically ill person in me is going to be like, yeah, well, I'm going to see you in like a month, because I'm going to keep quarantining. Just
I'm gonna let the world do its thing and then come out of the shell.
You guys all go and do that, and then when you're all bored of it again, when you've all gotten used to all these things again, I'll make my way down to Starbucks or whatever is open.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's smart. I think people need to make individual decisions. You know, once things do start opening, maybe the elderly, everyone still takes care of the elderly, you know, people that are more, have compromised immune systems, you know, they stay in more. I think everybody needs to not just say, oh, the government said. Everyone needs to, you know, take responsibility for their own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It kind of goes back to what Karleigh said. This is all neighbor to neighbor. So, like,
very much so.
And I don't know how it's going for you guys, but, you know, like, my county mayor is on a whole different wavelength than my city mayor, is on a whole different wavelength than the state of Florida, and they're on a whole different wavelength with President Trump. So it's like everybody has their own, you know, one person saying, oh, we was locked down last month, what you mean? The next person saying, oh, we should reopen. You know, this saying, oh, everything's gonna be fine. Oh, there's this paycheck protection, apply for this. Oh, just kidding, it ran out. Oh, well, try this. Oh no, well, we don't think that's because of the Democrats. You know, and it's all this back and forth, and at the end of the day, like, I have to wake up and decide, like, okay, I'm still breathing right now, what am I gonna actually do?
Yeah, and the pointing of fingers does nothing. It does nothing but make people hate each other more and cause more frustration. I mean, it becomes this comparison. Well, us Northern Californians, we've been being punished for like a month and a half now. And these people, oh my gosh, they let Mardi Gras happen. And oh my gosh, da 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 da. And in this country, and I can't believe we're only getting this much money. And then here in South Africa, they're getting nothing. You know, so, you know, I think everyone just needs to take a step back and say, what's the best option for me, then for my family, and then my community, and then, you know, think smaller and think more positive in small bits to help the bigger picture.
Yeah, because I mean, I think, and in terms of triggering, like Rose said, I think that's probably the biggest trigger for me and how I feel is like, okay, this is a first world country, but we're in the middle of this pandemic, and honestly, that's where I feel like I'm at. I'm fending myself, my family. This is what we're doing, and this is where we are. Like, I don't feel any sort of comfort from the country or state that I'm in the middle of this at all.
I think a lot of people are going to agree with you on that, because for as much as I'm hearing people, I was talking to some people yesterday, and these are the people that, at first glance, you would think would say, I can't wait for things to reopen. And I think all of us can't wait for things to reopen. But honestly, I have a feeling that when things reopen, I think people are going to be more gun shy than they think they will be. Because I'll be the first to admit, I started at I got a membership to a brand new gym that just got built at the beginning of the year. I am going to be somewhat squeamish at going back to that gym when it opens. I'm going to be squeamish about going out to dinner. I'm certainly going to be squeamish for going to going to, say, a baseball game if the major leagues reopen. I'm going to be squeamish about a lot of things, and I think a lot more people, if they really look at themselves in the mirror and check at the gut level, I think people are going to be that squeamish when and if this crisis abates itself.
Yeah, and that's a good point. What is gonna happen for sports? Who knows? I mean, and not even just our amateur, I mean, not even just our pro level sports, baseball, NBA, and all that good stuff, but just the little competitions that we're doing, our amateur sports. There's a decent number of competitions that have been canceled or postponed or pushed back. And I'm sure even if there's still things that are pushed back just to, July and August, let's say, personally, I wouldn't go. I still wouldn't feel okay about it. and not even in terms of that, I might not even have the money for it by then anymore.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us identify as being an athlete or a competitive athlete, and I know some people rely on that to sustain a living. They have promoters, they have people who pay essentially their income to compete, but we are on a hold right now. So I think the great thing about this community is we're sharing a lot of ways in which we have been adapting for a while. And we actually got a question just now on YouTube. Do you have any suggestions for how people can stay fit during this time? Any fun activities you can do with the whole family, or just how are we, if you're not training, again, that's okay. But if you are, or when you are, how are you adapting at home?
Well, I'll say I am lucky that I have a home gym, so I'm still training pretty much whatever feels good to me with my weights or whatever, what have you. The thing that does suck is that I'm not able to, I just got into Highland Games and throwing sports.
Wow.
I literally just did one competition. I just met a group of people. We just found each other and we're like, yeah, we're gonna practice every Sunday. So so I am missing that. So there are things that that you're missing, and just trying to be creative and making that up. So I'm taping kettlebells, and I'm turning dumbbells upside down, and I'm finding a random open field and just trying to do that. And I know it's not the same. And I know, I'm lacking the community and whatever, but at least it's fun. At least I'm moving. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And it feels good.
Well, when it comes to families, people with kids, they do tons of things. I mean, you can just play freeze dance, or now let's jump around like a monkey, or what is, this, or hey, who can run up and down the hallway 10 times the fastest, or I mean, I don't know if we've noticed, but I've taken to TikTok videos. And,
no comment.
And my kids we all dance together. It's just trying to find fun fitness as well. It doesn't, all have to have equipment or be a quote unquote workout, just finding things that keep us moving, that just keep our emotions, get the good hormones going.
Definitely. Yeah. And I would say also I am taking advantage of a lot of the free apps and free trials.
Yes.
Yeah,
free,
do that.
That's yoga apps and all those kind of things where you don't need anything, but you just prop your foam up, hit the ground, and now you got to do something for an hour, and now you feel good.
That's exactly what my husband was saying, that this is the perfect time actually to try things that you've never done, because there's yoga places doing free Zoom, there's Zumba, all these different things. It's the perfect time to try something you've never done before, see if you love it.
Yeah. And I'll share this on our Instagram and later on the YouTube link, but Disabled Sports USA has been putting out such great content. They've got a hashtag called Adapt at Home. So they do some live workouts from Olympians themselves, from triathletes themselves who identify as people with disabilities. So we'll share that as some workouts or classes that you can join.
Nice. And Karleigh, how are you? Because you usually cycle and train and whatever with a group of people. How does that work out? You just going rogue?
Yeah, more or less. You just go out. I mean, It's going to be interesting running tomorrow morning with a mask around my face because we're mandated. Because starting tomorrow night, we're mandated that going out in any way, shape, or form in the state of Connecticut, you must wear a mask. You must wear some form of PPE. But one thing I did do, just to have a little bit of fun, I organized my own. I was hosting a workout. I was hosting a workout class, so to speak, completely unstructured on Facebook Live. And I like what Kimberly was saying, do stuff that you never did before just to see if you can do it. And it doesn't even have to be fitness related. I did poetry readings on Facebook Live. I just decide, you know what? Because when I'm not doing a lot of the things I'm doing, I'm also a freelance videographer and editor. So I was like, wait a minute, I have all this video gear, do something with it. So I was like, all right. Just put your face on camera and speak your mind, or read poetry, or do a fun workout with it set to music for people. I actually had 4 people who showed up for it when I did that. So I might be doing it again. I'm planning for a spin class next, but
Yes.
this is a time, again, as Kimberly said, to take that step back.
Yeah.
And maybe look at something different, or maybe look at, okay, for me, I was looking back and asking, why am I training? Why am I training? I took this as a time also to do a lot of reading about the sports I participate in, how I can be better at them. And also, since being on the podcast a few weeks ago, I started looking up more information on adaptive athletics to better educate myself on those issues, because I'm a believer that sport is the right of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And any time that you can bolster athletics for more and more people, it's better for sport as a whole. So because also doing research before being on your podcast, and also you coming to my podcast, I found there was a lot of gaps in my knowledge on a lot of issues that I did not know.
Yeah.
So I'm also using this time as a time of learning and a time of education. And that can be about anything. So, it's something that a good friend of mine who was in prison told me, you have 2 choices. You can serve time or let time serve you. And I decided I'm going to let time serve me.
Can you say that one more time? That slept.
No, you can either serve time or let time. You can either serve time or let time serve you.
There you go.
I like that.
Wow. Kym, I am wondering what happened with, so like I mentioned, we all have different competitions. What's going on? Oh, can you unmute her, Marybeth? What's going on with the Wheelwad games? I haven't followed it exactly. Is it postponed? Is it back? Are you gonna go? Or are you not gonna go?
It's postponed, and hopefully postponed does not mean canceled. I mean, for me, it was just a really kick in the sad guts, because this was the first year that blind and deaf was going to have its own division. I was just so excited. And, I just love it. And so, yes, it was postponed. And so we're just waiting. Yeah,
Is there a date set, or did they just say
no, just no date, no nothing, no talk yet, but we're staying hopeful, and we'll just wait and see. I mean, but thank goodness. I mean, if this had happened, I don't know, 3 weeks earlier, Wadapalooza wouldn't have happened. So just counting that blessing. I guess.
That's true. Wadapalooza was a huge event. I know that I was supposed to do an all women's powerlifting meet in New York in May, and so they pushed it back to December. So if they're still not sure about the virus and if it'll like go away in the summer and come back in the winter again. But let's say it doesn't. December, I don't know. I still feel a little.
Well, I just think
I don't know.
Like it's been, like you said, financially, I mean, my husband and I own our own business, financially, if they do postpone it, and how many people will be able to travel. I mean, we have athletes from all over the world. And so then there's the question of, if they postpone it, well, the qualifiers for 2021 are in October. So are we going to do the qualifier before even the competition for this year? You know, who knows? I'm just trying not even to think about it, and we'll just go day by day, see what they say.
Yeah, let me just say there's still plenty of time to make history. I know we're all sad that our first
Yes.
adaptive
Yeah.
vision.
Herstory. It's herstory.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to make her story.
Yeah, I was just really sad, you know, for that first week when they announced that it was not happening. And then, you know, you move on. You don't have a choice, so.
Yeah, we know why this is happening, but it's still,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie and say I don't feel some type of way about not
Yeah.
being able to do the things that I plan to do.
Yep. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to lie.
I mean, a lot of times this is the way that we cope, you know, and find a community, because this is how we found empowerment in our disabilities. Reclaim that.
I feel like right now it seems like once a week. I feel like it's on Thursdays. I feel like I get super down about all the things.
Fucking Thursdays. Get rid of it.
It's totally Thursdays. That's the day I feel like sad and down about all the stuff, all the negative stuff. And then I, you know, just realize, okay, I don't know, it's just once a week. I give myself once a week.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
That's when it catches up.
So in the time being, without any, you know, competitions or events, this is a question for Kresenda. You've done some amazing groundwork to get adaptive divisions in strongman, like static monsters in your area. How can one work to do the same in their federations? Like, you start locally and then try to strive nationally. How can we do that work now while we're waiting for events to start happening?
It's a little frustrating, especially with the competitions being canceled. I was just talking to the person who runs California's Strongest Woman, and sadly, she works in healthcare, so that's on a complete hiatus. She doesn't have time to think about even adding an adaptive division because she just doesn't have time to even think. And as we've talked about before, when you contact the organization tells you to speak with the promoters on a smaller level. The promoters tell you to speak with the organization, and it's just this runaround. And eventually you just have to get really loud and ignore everybody who's coming after you and yelling at you for creating the noise, and just continue to create the noise and say, you know, this is what we need. And people are constantly telling you, you know, you need to have X amount of athletes in order for me to open up this division, this adaptive division. And my retort is always, well, I'm never going to have X amount of athletes if they don't have a division to compete in. They're not even going to think it's a possibility. So it's gotten to the point where I've thought about even opening up my own society or creating my own nonprofit to hold my own thing, because you're constantly spinning wheels. And especially right now, everybody's focus is elsewhere, and you just kind of have to be a little pushy and be in their ear, but at the same time respect that they have a lot going on too. And right now, competing isn't a priority for them, and promoting isn't a priority for them. And you have to kind of accept that your inclusion isn't a priority because there's other things going on, which sounds really strange to say when you constantly fight for inclusion your entire life.
Yeah.
And kind of admitting that maybe right now inclusion isn't important because you're not getting included into anything anyway. There's nothing happening. But kind of setting up the groundwork, I've started drafting emails and thinking about who am I going to contact and creating lists and going through and finding reasons why this can work, so that when things do start opening up, you kind of have to bombard them with so much information that they can't say no.
Yeah, and I mean it is frustrating too. We're in the 30th anniversary of the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. We did this Section 504 sit-in to get anti-discrimination laws in place in the U.S. and we see it so much in sports still. They're saying that they can't create an adaptive division or allow us to bring in our tools because there's not enough of us complaining. Like, that's such BS. There's not enough people who need ramps in buildings. That was BS. So I think we need to bring that momentum back. Shit, if we need to stage a sit-in, we'll start here in San Francisco again. I am sitting on the Berkeley campus. We will do that all over again if we have to.
I'm in. I'll join Strongman. What do I do? What do I like?
Man, because the adaptive division is so small, and as a certain organization told me, well, we have 5 competitions that you can compete in the United States. We have about 5, and it's like, if you were to tell me as a woman there's 5 competitions in the United States that I can compete in, would that be okay? But somehow it's okay because I'm adapted.
Mm-hmm. You got place to travel, hotel, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what would it matter if there was only 2 people in the division? Who, just have it.
Yeah.
Place,
But that also puts the impetus on able-bodied athletes like myself to put our voice, to put your face in the fan and realize sport is sport, and start speaking out. And it's the same thing with when that ramp is not getting put in that building. I recently was at a forum with the PSL, and we were talking about this. And one thing that was said at that forum is very important. If you are an able-bodied worker and you're not standing with disabled workers, you're not standing with the working class, you're standing with the boss. And that's the same thing. If you're not standing with marginalized communities, then you are as a worker in this country, you're standing with the boss. And it's the same thing. If you're not standing with, if I as an able-bodied athlete are not standing with disabled athletes to gain more access, then I'm standing with the commissioners, the promoters, and the looky-loos. And those are not the people I choose to ride with.
Well, I don't think it's fair to do an us versus them. I think that's the exact way that we're not going to get progress. I think the idea of inclusion is to not say, if you're not with us, you're against us. It's more to say.
Now, but Kresenda, that's not what I'm necessarily saying. But what I am saying is that when athletes come together, stuff gets done. And that means athletes have to come together. It doesn't necessarily have to be us against them. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is we have to come as a united front saying, as athletes, we need to start seeing these changes. We need to see this.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily us against them. Now, oftentimes the powers that be will try and set it as us against them because they don't want to do it. And there are times when it has to be, you have to force their hand. Frederick Douglass said it best: power concedes nothing without demand.
Right. So, I mean, Kresenda right now.
I kind of feel like you're talking over me, telling me what I need to do as a disabled.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I think more of what she's saying is that you are the disabled athlete going to people saying, hey, I want this adaptive division. And that she, in that situation, as the able-bodied athlete, should be holding your hand saying, yeah, she needs this adaptive division.
No, not holding hand. No, not holding hand. If anything, standing 2 steps behind Kresenda saying, I agree.
Okay.
I take Kresenda's lead, but I am going to be that person that's going to be standing right behind her saying, I agree with her. We need to be doing this. Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? We should be doing this. Why isn't my federation or my competition doing this? We should be. We should be opening up our sport to more people, not contracting it. That's what it's all about, isn't it? No, not holding hands, just the exact opposite. They don't need me. No one needs anybody to hold their hand.
Yeah,
but they
and I
do
hate
need
playing
people
that
that,
card.
but people need people to have their back.
I hate playing that card saying like, well, if you don't know what it's like, think about your cousin who is disabled or your aunt that's disabled who wants to play sports, or, you know, people making decisions for women and women's rights who are not women, who have no idea what it's like. So it's more of how we can get that conversation together, you know, how we can validate each other, celebrate each other, and just transition our work to a united body.
Yeah, I can
Hey,
take it.
I don't know. I just love sports. I just love seeing as many people getting out on the field as they can and playing. I just want to see people play.
Same. Are we gonna try to tack on any last minute questions, or what? How are we planning on
Yeah.
going on with this?
Let's see. Some questions are coming in. One was one last one, and then we'll open it up a little bit for a nice little closing. But as a partner or friend of a person with a disability or chronic illness, how often should we offer our help versus waiting for them to ask? Does anyone have experience with this, say, with accommodations or just general support from a family or friend?
Well, I'm sure it depends on what level you're at with this person. You know, if it's somebody that you haven't spoken to, you know, in a decade, and you just remembered, like, damn, shit, oh man, my cousin's over there, I wonder if she's okay, you know, like blowing up their phone every day, kind of weird. But it's not hard to just send somebody a message, like, listen, like literally text them, DM them, whatever. Just, you know, throw out the, hey, listen, I know things are weird, things are overwhelming, I don't know where you're at right now, I just want to let you know if you need something, just ask me. And that's all you have to do. One and done it. Because sometimes there are people that, not realizing that just them asking over and over again is stressful. So you don't want to be that person calling every day. Like when my mom passed, the people that would call me every day, oh, you need something? You need something? Like, yo, can I grieve? Like, can you chill? So, you know, just extend that. Hey, listen, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know how it is, but if you need me, I'm here. That's it.
Yeah. The
That's my
text
advice.
message is intrusive.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like you're saying, even right now, everybody is a little more fragile than usual. And, you know, people are dealing with their mental health a lot, you know, that's a lot more fragile than usual. And it doesn't hurt at any time. You don't have to call them and be down their throat every minute, but to send a text message or, you know, and something on social media and just say, hey, how are you doing? If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. And, you know, if people are comfortable with, like, I'm comfortable with myself and my disability, I've had no problem saying, hey, you're at the store, can you find toilet paper? You know, so it doesn't hurt to ask. Just don't be overwhelming.
Yeah. That's the
I think like touching on that, something I find really, really helpful in that situation, because I can be really overbearing, is I always start the message with like, hey, I hope you're okay. And I like capitalize this or put this in bold, and I'm like, you do not have to reply to this message. But because I like to give that option that they can read it and just send back an emoji, or as if to be like, you know, fuck off, I don't need you.
Right.
But like acknowledge the message so I know you're okay, but like you don't have to reply and converse with me, because otherwise
I would
make them feel pressure.
And I would much rather have someone be a little more like, hey, you don't have to respond to this, but than to ignore me completely. At this point in my life, at least, I'd rather have somebody ask to help than to just blow me off. So
absolutely. I love sending that, like, you don't have to reply, but
yeah.
And I love receiving it too. Like when people touch base with me and they're like, you don't have to reply, but this is just me saying, like, I'm proud of you, whatever, like the nice things that people sometimes say to me. I love when they say you don't have to reply.
And also to put out there for other disabled people, you know, don't be shy then to say, yes, I need help. I mean, I know I used to be really shy about that. I used to just, you know, say, no, I'm okay. Because it's like I felt like I didn't want to put people out or something. It was my own insecurity, but you know, it's really important for people with anything going on to be able to trust that people do want to help. And when you send that text saying, I don't want to be overbearing, but I'm going to the store, do you need anything? To be able to say, hey, yeah, can you pick me up a bag of rice? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, because you never know. Like, I think that's a really good point, actually. Like, you could ask someone 20 times, and in those 20 times not get a reply, and then that one day that they really need flour or icing sugar, and you just happen to touch base with them that day, they're going to go, you know what, I'm sorry I've been ignoring you, but actually today I do need your help. So I think it is like, it's be persistent in a managed way, and making sure that that person knows, like, there's no obligation to reply, like, constantly remind them. Because I think that's what's really worked with all of my, like, chronic community is we always say this to each other, like, you don't have to apologize for not replying. Like, you don't need to feel any shame or guilt because you ignored me. I always say to people, like, the only time that I would ever be irritated is if, like, a major thing happened and you didn't just go, I'm okay. You know, like, just that simple communication. But yeah, definitely. I think it's like you said, it's really nice when people still make the effort. It's like that saying, like, I'm probably not going to attend the event, but I still want you to invite me.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
Or Louisa, what about daily things like putting your leg on? How often do you find yourself, you know, asking or waiting until somebody asks?
Okay, I'm very independent. So I'll rather try and do something myself before I do ask. However, I like to help. I like to assist. So I'm the kind of person who will constantly ask on your WhatsApp or whatever, are you guys okay? How are you holding up? How's the lockdown treating you? Is there anything that you need? But no, as far as I can cope. I think all of us can. As you know, if I look at you ladies, we're the strong ones, and we're always the ones that should ask. And we probably will be asking, "Are you guys okay? Do you need anything?" And that's what I do. I don't know what the situation is like in your communities, but we have like a complete lockdown, which means that nobody's allowed to leave the house. So you only leave to go and get essentials. We've got military presence all over. We've got soldiers parading, South African police parading. So should they, you know, should you meet up with them outside, you're in trouble. You either get fined. We had one of our neighbors got a fine actually for 1,500 rand just for getting into his car. So, you know, so in my husband usually goes out and get what we need. I went out once just to get some essentials, and you know, fortunately, the disabled and the elderly, we are privileged, so we are, you know, we get to go into the shops. But yeah, so I'll always ask. I can't really do much. If we go to the shop, I'll find out who needs or whoever needs. But as far as it comes to myself, I think I manage. I'm managing so far.
Oh yeah.
Good.
We hear that one. Last two quick questions. Kresenda, have you healed from your shark bites? And Rose, can you sing us a Disney bit?
Disney.
So we'll let you prep for that one. Kresenda?
So no, they're actually much worse than we expected.
Well, let's just say you didn't get bit. You didn't get bitten by a shark.
So as many people know, I got an abscess from an IV. The hospital didn't clean my arm well enough, and I ended up with a golf ball size abscess in my bicep, basically.
Oh no!
And I found it was so much more fun to tell people that I was bitten by a 3-toothed shark. Way easier to them explaining it. And turns out that there's a lot of nerve damage, which has led to me not being able to pick up stones, Atlas stones, which is of course my favorite lift. So trying to again adapt and trying to figure out how to pick up a stone one-armed is frustrating, to say the least. I can't even really wear long sleeve shirts now on that arm. So we're kind of in this weird kind of like, I would go see a pain specialist and a plastic surgeon and everything to see if there's something they can do and fix it. But we can't do that right now because it's really not a priority. But yeah, I think it's way more fun to call it a shark bite.
Yeah.
So it's not going swimmingly.
Marcia's gonna be here all week. Tip your waiters.
Hey. Oh man, what's this about Disney? What is that? What are you?
Yeah, let's hear this.
What?
Rose sings she sings
Oh.
some songs online, so I think she's got some fans.
Oh.
It started ages ago. I started posting like one-liners of songs, but slightly changing them and seeing if people could still guess what the song was. And it's hilarious. Sometimes, like, honestly, I don't like to shame people, so I don't post their answers. But I have a good giggle to myself sometimes because people get them so mixed up. But it's the same for me. Like, I make up lyrics as I go along, so this is just hilarious to me.
Nice. Oh,
You're my new favorite person.
Yeah.
Huh?
My new favorite person.
I love Disney. But the other day I posted 2 Disney songs, and like 2 really, 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 like, for me, they were really obvious. It was Hercules and Mulan. And loads of people messaged me, like, not knowing what they were. And I was like, okay, you know what? Now you have homework for quarantine. And loads of people said they'd never seen Mulan. And I was like, am I
What? Oh, God.
How is that possible? You've seen Frozen, but you've not seen Mulan? No.
Blasphemy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, just awful.
I'll get them all right.
Oh,
I'll chime in.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh no, they
Now
think you're
you're
gonna sing
on
right
the
now.
phone?
No, ready.
Yeah,
that's what
right now.
Oh gosh, am I being roped into this?
No,
What's
you're.
funny is, like, and the worst thing is,
He's like, I'm not doing it for free.
Come on, let's.
Okay. I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid, over, sideways, and something through a. Don't know the rest of the words.
Hey.
Whole new world, Aladdin.
I looked that one
right.
up. That's the first thing that came into my head.
Oh.
You're pretty good Mary Poppins. I
You're
think.
an. No, you are
You
an
would make a
excellent.
good Mary Poppins.
That was a
Oh my
good.
gosh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
You have to take care of kids.
That
though.
wasn't a bad Ariel. That was not a bad
Ariel.
one.
Oh my gosh. That's Aladdin.
Wait, that's Aladdin.
That was
Wrong film.
Okay, now you all have homework. You have to all have homework.
That was
Hey,
a whole new world. Aladdin and Jasmine, not Ariel.
Really?
And you know what?
now I'm
I
lost.
did. That's the
That
one.
was great.
That's one of the Disney films I didn't see.
Oh, all right.
and I-
we've all
I'd
got
never
that.
seen Aladdin either.
And what's
actually.
what's sad is full disclosure. I used to work for Disney.
Oh, come on.
I used to work.
You had to have watched them all.
Did you lose the job for not having seen the film?
Oh no! I didn't lose the job for not having seen the film. It was I lost the job. I lost the job honestly for having the wrong favorite Disney film.
Oh.
Which is what?
Tron. Yeah, I
Oh.
said it.
Oh.
Tron is a Disney film. People.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I admit I've not seen this.
All right, y'all. We've had our viewers on here for a long time. It was a lot that we've covered, and we'll probably have this again with some more people, some less people. But this is all really important stuff, and I want to end it with, we're all going through this crisis together, and it's easy to get lost in the negative and the adversities we're facing. And Kym had a really great idea, actually. If we can go around and just mention one positive thing or one fun thing that's kept you sane, and one positive thing that's come out of the situation. Be a word, a phrase, just.
Oh, all right. Just a one and doneer.
Mhm.
Okay, what's yours? You go first.
Mine?
Yes.
I've found some, and I find so much healing in the gardening that I've been doing. Like, I know I only watch it once a day, prune it once a week or whatever, but that type of patience that I've never had, you know, I'm always running around doing 3 jobs at once and commuting 2-3 hours a day. Finding peace in my garden has been the best thing ever.
Nice. I'd say the best thing for me is my husband is home and not too stressed to cook, so I've been eating good.
Hey!
I've been eating real good. That's the positive. Kym?
I think going into the whole quarantine, thinking that having all this extra time with my kids would be overwhelming, but now realizing that I don't think I'll want to give them back when it's time for them to go
Aw.
back to school. I'm actually
Aw.
loving hanging out with my kids.
Louisa?
Yeah, definitely family time as well. I agree with Kym. Also thought that they were going to drive me nuts and up the wall. And the fact that technology has, advanced in such a way that we can do this. We're not lost. We're not that isolated that we don't know what's happening out in the world. We can still communicate. We can still do FaceTime and have chats and everything. So we can still communicate. And that's what I love about technology and where we are right now.
Nice. Karleigh?
I guess it comes down to one word: community. I moved in with 2 of my closest friends in January to start the year, and I feel very blessed to be living with them. And at the same time, I got even tighter with my family with Trans Lifeline, and that has given me so much, because before I've lived alone for like the last 20 years or so, and now I'm not alone anymore, and this is a perfect time. If there's a time where I'm glad I'm not alone, it's this time, because I don't know what I would be doing if I had to go through this crisis staring at 4 walls alone.
Wow. Rose?
It's funny because I was literally going to say, and you've just said it, I live on my own and in like a tiny space, and normally I go stir crazy if I have to like spend a lot of time in my apartment, and I've always been like, it's so small, you can't do anything in it. And actually I've like really come to love this place in like a really like just a way that I didn't think I would, and it's kind of made it bigger in my eyes. It's teeny, it's so small. I literally sleep like in my kitchen, which is not a problem. But but definitely like this, I've always been good on my own, but I didn't really realize that I was this capable of like being on my own, and like prioritizing time and like making time for other people and just being a little bit more like open to things than I was before, and so much more structured. Like not that much changed when I went into lockdown, but I apparently now get up at the same time every day and I get things done and I have a structure. So I think it's proven to me that I actually have a lot more control than I thought I had.
Nice. Kresenda?
It's funny because everybody's talking about community and everything. And when lockdown started happening, I actually took a social media break because I felt like for so long, I feel like I'm always having to be on, always having to think about, okay, what am I going to post and who am I going to make this post to and who am I going to help with this? And I finally said, you know what? I'm going to take this time for myself. And I'm going to randomly pop online for like 5 minutes and look at videos or something and be selfish for once. And it actually felt really good. And I'm having a really hard time coming back to Instagram and coming back to the platforms and thinking of things to post, because it feels really good to be a little selfish as opposed to always having to be on, always having to look like an athlete, always having to talk in a certain way and making sure that you think about everybody else when you're talking. And right now I'm just kind of focusing on, well, what can I do for me? And I think it's been kind of awesome to just kind of look inside instead of dealing with everybody else for once.
Yeah, that is nice. I mean, I think we're going to take this time as, I mean, number one, we got to survive. Do whatever you got to do to survive. Again, I thank you guys all for coming to talk to us. This was amazing.
Thank you.
So, I mean, number one, we got to survive. If we got to adapt, we got to adapt. If we have to ask for help, ask for help. If you hate being alone right now, okay, maybe some time to think about it. You feeling insecure? Okay, well, shit, now it's time to think about it. You know, you found some new friendships. Amazing. Whatever it is, this is like definitely the time for find out what feels good for you. Like, this is the season. Because if you can't find it right now, it's going to be a lot tougher because nobody knows how the rest of 2020, 21 is going to go. All we know is that we got each other. We got Zoom forever, hopefully.
I know.
And
Or teddy bears in windows.
and teddy bears and windows.
Teddy bear.
Yeah, and we're just going to keep moving. We're going to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
That's going to be it. So thanks again for coming, guys.
Thank you all.
Or teddy bears with you.
No.
Bears.
Oh, nice.
Never too old.
Never too old. All right, folks.
And thank you all for watching us and asking all those awesome questions. We're going to post this on our Instagram, IGTV. It'll still be on YouTube, so y'all have access to it. All right.
Awesome.
Love you.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Single girls out.
Bye, everybody.